Mr. Colin Powell has recently passed away. He passed away due to COVID complications. He was indeed vaccinated, but however, there's a humongous caveat because, of course, this will be used to say that the vaccination doesn't work. Colin Powell had Parkinson's disease, and he was also 84 years of age, and he also had multiple myeloma, which is a type of cancer that essentially affects your white blood cells and your ability to fight back against diseases. It affects your immune system. So he was in pretty bad shape, and natural causes ran its course with him. So, of course, as we know, Mr. Colin Powell is quite a controversial figure to anybody with an objective mindset, to the mainstream media discourse, and to the polite society. He might not be so controversial as we've been seeing. They've been hailing him as some sort of hero. But a certain figure, everybody's favorite person, has once again reared his ugly head, and I am referring to the former president of the United States of America, Mr. Donald Trump. And he had the following thing to say about Colin Powell. He released a statement, and the statement went as follows. Wonderful to see Colin Powell, who made big mistakes on Iraq and famously so-called weapons of mass destruction, be treated in death so beautifully by the fake news media. Hope that happens to me someday. He was a classic rhino, if even that, always being the first to attack other Republicans. He made plenty of mistakes, but anyway, may he rest in peace. That's what the former president had to say about Mr. Colin Powell. And the media and the people in polite society, the get back to brunch liberals, the centrists, even a lot of Republicans are losing their minds over this right here. I mean, Donald Trump, he's disgusting. Oh my God, he's so ridiculous. I mean, they're losing their minds. Now, for those of you that may, your memory may be a little bit hazy on who Colin Powell is, and some of you may not know who he is. I'll give you a quick idea or a quick description. Colin Powell was one of the most integral figures into lying us into the war in Iraq. He was. I mean, one of his biggest, probably his biggest moment ever while he was alive was when he was talking in front of the UN, and he held up a vial, of whatever it was, nothing, saying that this was a reason to invade Iraq because they had indeed, based upon what he had, they had weapons of mass destruction. And he was a huge supporter of former President Bush. And, he was a very important figure when it came to us going into Iraq. He had a big hand to play in that. And you wouldn't be lying if you were to refer to him as a war criminal. Okay? That entire administration just filled with heinous criminals. I mean, that's what it was. It hurts to remember. Of course, I was a little bit too young at the time to even recollect what was going on. But of course, you grow up and you learn about these things, and it leaves a sour taste in your mouth to know that those things went on. But anyway, to pivot back to polite society, they're up in arms about this, and they're losing their minds. And what I want to do before I give my take on this entire situation is give you a little bit of an article that CNN put out. Now, we know CNN is like the epitome of polite society, and they love, rehabilitating these criminals, even though it's worth noting that Colin Powell has received a lot of positive press over the course of his lifetime. So it's actually kind of difficult for a person that doesn't really pay attention to discern what kind of a figure he actually was. So this is an article from CNN. Donald Trump, yet again, in parentheses, proves there is no bottom. Roughly 24 hours after the death of Colin Powell, Donald Trump proved again that he is utterly incapable of empathy, grace, or even common decency. Wow. This article goes on to say, what Trump's statement should remind us is that this is a man uniquely self-obsessed without any ability to see beyond himself. Powell was openly critical of Trump. He voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Joe Biden in 2020. And of the dark direction the billionaire businessman was leading the country. And so Trump saw Powell's death as an opportunity to get back at him and took it. That's the angle that they're running with right here. That's the angle that they're running with. And I just want to add, Colin Powell actually had this enlightenment or whatever. So after the January 6th insurrection, he like pivoted from a Republican to like a independent, I think like officially. But of course, as I just highlighted there, he was supporting Democrats before the January 6th riot or insurrection or whatever you want to refer to it as. So he had kind of switched lanes. But the fact of the matter is, that doesn't erase at all his doing, his participation, and his igniting of, you know, the war in Iraq and the things that he took place in that the people in mainstream media and polite society are never gonna bring up and talk about. Now, in regards to Donald Trump's statement, first of all, I thought it was hilarious. It was extremely Donald Trump-esque. I mean, what else do you expect from the man? I mean, he was president of the United States for 4 years. We saw how he behaved, what the fuck he did. Why is this a surprise to you? But I do think it's hilarious how he says that he made big mistakes on Iraq and famously so-called mass weapons of mass destruction. If you understand, Mr. Trump, that Iraq was a mistake, why didn't you bring out the troops when you were in office? What happened? He said he was going to get the troops out of Afghanistan as well. Never did that. I wonder why. Maybe he was too cucked to the military-industrial complex. I'll leave that to you to decide. But and then he says, what I love this, he says, hope that happens to me someday. And you know what, Mr. Trump? That may very well happen to you someday. And you want to know why? Because mainstream media has this thing that they like, that I like to call, and many others like to call, rehabilitation. Have you seen how they've been treating George Bush lately? George W. Bush. Like he's some fucking hero. Like he shouldn't be in The Hague. Like he shouldn't be rotting behind bars right now. The way they talk about this man, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. He was like the most hated person, quite literally, in the country at one point in time. And now all of a sudden he's a legend for what? I have no idea. Oh, because of Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump emerged. And now they see him as even worse than George W. So they rehabilitate George W. Remember what happened when John McCain died? Awful person. I mean, terrible ideals, horrible political opinions, did horrible things. When John McCain died, and all of a sudden, oh, he's a hero. When George H.W. Bush passed away, same thing. Oh, he's a hero. Terrible person. I mean, what the hell? But this is my thing about it. Now, look, will I ever rejoice in the death of anyone, even if it's somebody that I hate? No. I don't have an enemy. You do what you will, but I can't bring myself to do it, honestly. Okay? But what I do think should happen is we should be honest. I think that the people are owed honesty, right? Be honest. When a person passes away, you know, a public figure, an enigmatic figure, a person that was in the public eye for a majority of their lives, we should be honest about their legacy. And we should be honest about what they did. We should be honest about who they were. And you can't police public discourse and try to tell everybody, no, settle down. We have to be polite because this person just passed away. Now, of course, if you believe that's something you should do out of respect, much like I do, you know, I'm not going to come out here and crusade against Colin Powell because he, you know, he's now dead and rejoice in that fact. No, I won't do that. That's very disrespectful in my opinion. But what I will do is I'll tell the truth. I'll just tell the truth and tell the truth about who he was. And the same should have been done for John McCain, but it wasn't. The same should have been done for George H.W. Bush, but it wasn't. And when George W. Bush passes, as we've already seen, he's already been rehabilitated. So he'll get positive press. They won't bring up the wars. They won't bring up, you know, the deregulation, all the other things that he did to help tank the economy and what have you. They won't bring up any of these things because his rehabilitation process has been done. And Donald Trump makes a slick joke in his statement. But who knows? Maybe we'll get a figure that surpasses even the hatred that the media has for Donald Trump. And maybe even Donald Trump will be rehabilitated in the future. And let's not talk about Colin Powell. Now I'm referring to Donald Trump like he didn't have his fair share of war crimes. His first military operation as president of the United States killed a young Yemeni girl. And that's not the only one. He committed many atrocities, just like every other U.S. president does. Okay? The fact of the matter is, mainstream media loves to pick and choose who they hold up, who they herald, and who they throw their, you know, vitriol at. And Donald Trump is the person that they choose to direct all that vitriol, who they like to aim all of their anger at. And everybody else, they want to uplift and glory and pretend like they never did a single bad thing in their life. Okay? Fact of the matter is, the truth should always be told. Be honest about people's legacies. Be honest about who they were. Stop bitching and moaning because you don't want to hear about what a person did that was terrible, even though they're a public figure. Now, if you're at the person's funeral or something, you don't want to, it's different. But in public discourse, okay, you can't censor and police and try to tell people how to say and what to say when what they're saying is the truth. And in this instance, Donald Trump was telling the truth. Okay, how ironic it may be because he was president for 4 years and we saw how terrible he was. But the fact of the matter is, this is the media doing what the media does, heralding around war criminals and simply not being honest.